Okay, so here outside the Vitality with Peter Rutzler from The Athletic. Peter, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, really good actually. It was not a bad performance this afternoon, was it? So
yeah, 1-0 to AFC Bournemouth. And when I say The Athletic, some of you who are watching on YouTube might not know what The Athletic's all about. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, we're a new media outlet, I guess. We moved into the UK in the summer. It was based in America. They basically had all the beat reporters from NBA, basketball, American football, baseball, put them all together in one place, and then basically give them the freedom to write as much in more detail, more features, more in-depth, more insight than your traditional press. And they decided to move into the Premier League this summer, and they recruited from all the national papers, caused all sorts of chaos in different newsrooms. And they have individual reporters in every club, and I am the Bournemouth reporter. So I cover the club week in, week out. I write a few features a week, trying to get more insight, more detail, more tactical analysis than there is normally with Bournemouth. As we were talking about before, there's not very much of that going on in mainstream press. So, yeah, it's the idea is to offer more in-depth features with more insight, and I think generally it's been quite popular so far. It is subscription, so that you pay a small fee per month, but going forward it's going well so far.
So I've seen a number of your pieces. Some of them were talking about Callum Wilson and his ACL, which was a really interesting piece. Steve Cook, you had a piece on him earlier on in the week about his 150th appearance and the way he spearheads the AFC Bournemouth defence. I mean, Nathan Ake does get the plaudits, but Steve Cook's very much underrated. And what performance it was today.
Yeah, it was very fitting for him to mark his 150th Premier League performance with one like that today. So I did a comment on Friday, just because he is, he's unheralded, like he is overlooked. There was one stat that I found out from a fan, that 15 or 16 times he's been nominated for Player of the Month, but hasn't won it, and that's the club's, Player of the Month award. So it kind of reflects how he's perceived, I think. He's been with the club since 2012. Time for 170 grand, come through from League One to the Premier League. And he can put in a performance like that against Manchester United, who, they're not the Manchester United who rampaged to Premier League titles, but we said before, they signed Harry Maguire for 80 million. These are players on huge wages, on a different financial stratosphere. And Steve Cook's holding his own. And sure, Nathan Ake was outstanding. We can talk about the whole back four. I thought they were all brilliant. They have been for a month, but I think for Cook today to mark his 150th Premier League performance with a display like that is important, and people will talk about him, and hopefully they will, this weekend after the result, because he was crucial to that clean sheet and Bournemouth's run of clean sheets, really.
So, as a journalist who's kind of worked in sport for quite a while, how have you found AFC Bournemouth? Are they quite an open club? Have you got a good relationship with them?
A fantastic club, genuinely a fantastic club. They offer really good insight, very good with access to players especially, but I guess that's part of the ethos of the club, the philosophy. It's a family club, it's a community club, and they encourage players to speak out, to talk to the press. The manager's always open. I think that's always been the case, especially with Eddie, with press conferences. They have young reporters come down from the university, and he will always answer any questions they have and give them really good answers too. So coming into it fresh from the outside, having been to other clubs before, it is a very open club, definitely, and that helps me, because I want to try and provide fans with as much insight as I possibly can, and they're open to that, and I think that's been reflected in some of the stories I've been able to do, like the Callum Wilson piece. They let me speak to the medical department, and they talked about it and the process, and that's quite a big thing for a Premier League club to do. So, and I think they value keeping their door open. Obviously it's within reason. They are still a club, and they want to maintain their own image, and they have their own sort of media outlet too, but no, they're a fantastic club.
Do you find that the background of the club lends itself to creating very unique stories, because a lot of fans and the wider media they picture it as a fairy tale story for AFC Bournemouth, which in many ways it is. Obviously there was money behind it, but does that sort of help you in some ways to create very engaging stories? Because a lot of your pieces are very engaging, and it helps that we sort of came from this sort of rags to riches story.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many stories to tell, and I think the fact that it was so recent that the club were in the lower leagues, it does help me tell stories. It means players are more happy to talk, past players too. I definitely think, from the stuff I've done so far, I think that the story is more nuanced than that, and I think everyone sort of knows the fairy tale. That's kind of some of the feedback I've got as well from fans. Everyone knows that story, but they want to hear it differently, or the unsung voices, or different periods, or different people. And it's important that when I do reference it, talk about it, it's talked about in the right way, in the right context. But at the same time, there are more stories to tell. I think beyond that, to do with the club and the club's history, and I think it's finding a balance, really. I've written all sorts of stuff. There's the basic stuff from the present and now, and the tactical and whatever. But then there's also the historic stuff and finding a balance. But as I was saying before, I think the story is fantastic, and people really value that and love it. And I think it has been done a lot, actually, really. And I think what a lot of people have told me is that they like to know as much about now. What's going on now, what's the future, the training ground, for instance, or there's talk about the new stadium and that kind of information. What's going on in the dressing room, and what's the squad like, what's Eddie's thinking and about things, the future, and that's the kind of thing that can be overlooked with Bournemouth until you get the odd story every now and again, but never with as much insight or detail. So trying to work on those is something I'd like to do and offer more, and that's what I'm aiming to do at The Athletic, really.
I see a lot of kind of recycled press releases on a number of media outlets, and yours are certainly unique. So if people want to sign up to The Athletic, just give us some information about how they can follow you on Twitter. I was about to say that we obviously quote Peter's tweets that he writes for our pre-match preview. Peter and AFC Bournemouth and a few different sort of Twitter accounts will give the rundown, but I do find yours particularly insightful. So what's your Twitter handle, and also how can they sign up to The Athletic?
Well, my Twitter handle's at Peter Rutzler. It's all one word. It's Rutzler. It is an odd.
We'll put it down there.
But yeah, no, I provide updates from the presses. I think that's just because not many people go to them, actually. I think it's quite a weird one. I think from a media perspective, Bournemouth can be tagged onto London a bit, and obviously it's not in London, and Eddie likes to do his press conferences early, so coming down is difficult, which is good for me. It just means no one else is really covering it, so there's me and the Echo guys who are great. So yeah, and to sign up to The Athletic, if you just go on the site, there's a week, you can have a week's free trial, see if you like it, see if it's your thing. We've got some fantastic writers on there. Daniel Taylor, Oliver Kay, David Ornstein, we've got reporters on every single club providing the same sort of thing, so it can be quite good if, say for Newcastle next week, you've got George Culkin and Chris Watt looking at Newcastle day in, day out, doing what I'm doing. So I think once this passes, to sign up, we'll wait, there we go. It's important details though.
That's Man United's strike force just going past in the bins there.
Being wheeled away by Steve Cook. To sign up, if you go on the site, there is you can sign up with a week's free trial, and then it's I think it's $4.99 per month. There are still some discount offers around if you search for them, and then that's you can buy. I think you buy annually. So do try it out. I really would recommend trying it out and seeing if you do enjoy it, and if you don't, you don't, because I mean it is quite a commitment, but I'm hoping to offer something different, something more interesting, more detail and more coverage, really. I think that's the bottom line with a club like Bournemouth, and I think that's something that people value, I hope.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. We'll pop all the links in the description, so do check it out, and do follow him on Twitter as well. But Peter, thank you very much.
No worries.
Cheers, mate.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Cheers.
Lovely.